Think back to the first time you realized a person you loved was lying to you. For most of us, it wasn't just a mistake. It was a calculated deception that rewired our brains to prioritize survival over intimacy. Now, every I love you feels like a hidden question you can't answer. The rain fell in thin, relentless sheets over the old neighborhood in Edmonton, turning the cracked sidewalks into mirrors that reflected the sodium glow of streetlights. Elena Voss was 8 years old the night everything rewired. She sat on the edge of her narrow bed in the cramped apartment above the corner store, clutching a worn stuffed rabbit named Mr. Whiskers. Her mother, Lena, had promised, crossed her heart and hoped to die, that the tooth fairy would come if Elena left the little white tooth under her pillow. She always does, my brave girl. Magic is real when you believe hard enough. Elena believed. She believed so fiercely that she barely slept, listening for the flutter of tiny wings. But when morning came, the tooth was still there, cold and accusing. No coin, no note, just her mother's tired smile at breakfast, and the quick, too bright, "Maybe she was busy with other kids tonight, sweetie. Try again tomorrow." It wasn't the missing quarter that broke something inside Elena. It was the microsecond flicker across her mother's face when she said it, the slight tightening at the corners of her eyes, the way her smile didn't quite reach them, the almost imperceptible swallow before the lie left her lips. Elena didn't have words for it yet, but her child's brain understood on a primal level. The person who was supposed to keep her safe had just chosen deception over truth. If the tooth fairy was a lie, what else was? Eyes was mused small fist clenches around imaginary rabbit. That night, the radar switched on, permanently. Farendeused, settily, into guarded posture. Years blurred. Elena grew into a sharp-eyed woman of 34, a forensic accountant by day, who hunted discrepancies in corporate ledgers the way other people hunted bargains. Her colleagues called her the Bloodhound. With a mix of admiration and unease, she could spot a padded expense report from 3 desks away, catch a fabricated timestamp in a spreadsheet before the ink was dry. What they didn't know was that the same wiring that made her exceptional at work made every human connection feel like walking through a minefield. Tonight, she stood in the doorway of her sleek downtown condo, watching her boyfriend of 11 months, Marcus Hale, shrug off his wet coat. Marcus was a landscape architect, tall, easy smiling, with warm brown eyes that crinkled at the corners when he laughed. He had a habit of bringing her single flowers instead of bouquets because one perfect stem says more than a dozen that are just trying too hard. She loved that about him, or at least the part of her that still wanted to love tried to. "You're late," she said, voice light but her eyes already scanning. Client meeting ran over. "Sorry, babe." He leaned in to kiss her cheek. She caught it, the faint hesitation before contact, the way his left hand twitched toward his pocket as if checking something, a micro-expression of guilt, or just her brain doing what it always did. She smiled anyway, the practiced one that never quite reached her own eyes. "No worries, dinner's almost ready." Inside, the condo smelled of garlic and rosemary. Marcus set the table while she stirred the sauce, but her mind was already cataloging. His phone had buzzed twice in his pocket during the kiss. He hadn't checked it. Unusual. The rain on his coat was concentrated on the shoulders and back, as if he'd been walking, not driving from the office across the river. His cologne had a faint overlay of something floral that wasn't hers. Every observation landed like a quiet click in her chest. Click, click, click. Yee. They ate. Conversation flowed. His latest park redesign, her latest audit that had uncovered a 6-figure embezzlement scheme. Marcus laughed at her dry recounting of the CFO's meltdown. "You're terrifying, you know that? In the best way." Elena tilted her head, letting the radar sweep. "Terrifying how? The way you see through people. It's like you've got X-ray vision for bullshit." He reached across the table and squeezed her hand. His grip was warm, steady. No tremor, no avoidance of eye contact. Still, something felt off. Later, while he showered, she did what she always swore she wouldn't. She picked up his phone from the counter. Passcode, her birthday. Sweet. All calculated, the messages were open to a group chat with his work team. Nothing suspicious. Recent calls, his mother, the client, a takeout place. Emails, mundane, yet her pulse hammered. The radar never powered down. It only idled, waiting. When Marcus emerged in sweatpants, hair damp, he found her on the couch staring at nothing. "Hey, you okay?" "House?" She looked up. "Did you stop somewhere on the way home?" A beat. His brow furrowed, but there it was, that tiny micro flash in his eyes, the one most people would miss. "What?" "No. Straight from the office." "Why?" "No reason." She forced a laugh. "Just thought I smelled someone else's perfume on your coat. Must be the new receptionist or something." Marcus chuckled, but the sound was a half-second too late. "You and your superpowers. Come here." He pulled her close. She let him, but inside the armor clicked tighter. Another test passed. Another night where intimacy felt like interrogation. The weeks that followed carried the familiar rhythm of escalation. Marcus planned a weekend getaway to the mountains. Jasper, his treat. Elena agreed, even as her mind spun scenarios. She packed anyway, joking about bear spray and how she'd ordered the hotel minibar for overcharges. On the drive up the Icefields Parkway, the landscape unfolded in cinematic grandeur. Jagged peaks dusted with late spring snow, turquoise lakes reflecting impossible skies. Marcus drove with one hand on the wheel, the other occasionally brushing her knee. "This is what I needed," he said. "You, me, no spreadsheets, no client drama." Elena smiled, but her eyes tracked the way he checked the rearview mirror more than necessary. Paranoia or pattern? They hiked a trail to a hidden waterfall. Mist rose like smoke. Marcus took her hand as they stood on the slick rocks. "Elena, I've been thinking," her radar screamed. "Here it comes. The lie, the pivot, the moment the mask slips." "I love you," he said simply, "and I want this to be more, like forevermore." The words hung in the roaring water. She searched his face for the lip twitch, the averted gaze, the micro-expression of fear or triumph. Nothing, just steady warmth. Her throat tightened. "Marcus," before she could finish, her phone buzzed. Unknown number. She stepped away to answer, glad for the interruption. The voice on the line was calm, professional. "Ms. Voss, this is Detective Ramirez with Edmonton Police. We need to speak with you about Marcus Hale. There are some irregularities in his background we'd like your help clarifying." The waterfall roared louder in her ears. She turned slowly. Marcus was watching her, smile fading as he read her expression. "Everything okay?" he called. Elena lowered the phone. The radar wasn't just pinging anymore. It was screaming. The first twist landed like a stone in still water. Marcus wasn't just a landscape architect. He was an undercover operative. He had chosen her deliberately, not for love, for access. Her hypervigilance had made her the perfect unwitting gatekeeper. Detective Ramirez laid it out in a sterile interview room back in the city 2 days later. He said you were the best lie detector he'd ever met. So he decided not to lie, not once. Elena sat very still. The irony burned like acid. She had spent her life armor-plated against deception, only to be taken down by radical honesty wrapped around a larger lie. Marcus requested to see her. Against all protocol and her better judgment, she agreed. He looked smaller in the visitation room, orange jumpsuit hanging loose. "I fell in love with you anyway," he said quietly. That part wasn't calculated. Elena's voice was steel. "You used the exact wound that made me this way to get close to me." Yeah, he met her eyes without flinching. And it worked until it didn't. "Because you're better at this than anyone gave you credit for." She left without another word. But the damage was done. The radar, once her survival tool, now felt like a curse. Months dragged in a haze of depositions. She moved to a smaller apartment on the north side, where the river wound slow and dark. Nights were long. The body stored the stress in tight shoulders, grinding teeth. She started seeing Dr. Nadia Patel. "You don't have a superpower," Dr. Patel said gently. "You have a nervous system stuck in survival mode since you were 8. Elena laughed bitterly. "Touch gets you killed, or at least betrayed." "Or loved," Dr. Patel countered. "The work is learning to tell the difference." The homework began small. Notice one genuine moment a day without analyzing it to death. It was harder than any audit. Then came the second twist. 6 months after Marcus, a letter arrived from her mother. Lena Voss had been diagnosed with early-stage Alzheimer's. The letter was lucid, painful. "I lied because the truth was too heavy for a child's shoulders. I'm sorry, my brave girl." Elena read it 3 times, then drove through a late autumn rain to the care facility. Her mother looked smaller. "I taught you to scan for lies because I lived in fear of them myself. I'm sorry, my brave girl. I broke the trust before anyone else could." That night, back in her apartment, Elena stood at the window watching the river. The radar hummed, quieter now. She began rewriting the internal script, slow exposure to vulnerability. Then came Theo, a quiet bookstore owner with kind eyes. "Does it feel safer if you can predict when I'll disappoint you?" Noah, the question landed like a gut punch. She laughed, a real one. "God, yes. Predictable pain is better than blindsiding." "Pain is still pain," he said. "What if we tried unpredictable safety instead?" It wasn't linear. There were setbacks, but the armor didn't snap back into place immediately. The stakes rose again when Marcus's trial approached. He wanted one conversation. "I'm getting out early for cooperation," he said. "But before I disappear, I need you to know, the love wasn't fake."
Pause.
"I'm not sure I can forgive you," she said. "But I'm learning I don't have to let your choices define my radar forever." The trial brought media frenzy, but Elena's testimony, calm, precise, laced with hard-won insight, shifted the narrative. She used the settlement to launch pattern recognition recovery, workshops. Humor was her secret weapon. Role plays where participants practiced failing tests gracefully. Theo stood beside her at the launch. "Proud of you," he murmured. "Don't get sappy," she teased. "I might scan for ulterior motives." "Scan away. My only motive is wanting to see you laugh, more than you flinch." She did laugh, and for a moment, the armor felt less like necessity. The years accumulated. Her mother passed peacefully. Elena scattered some ashes near the waterfall trail. At 42, Elena stood on the balcony of a new home overlooking the North Saskatchewan River. Theo was inside, burning dinner on purpose, ready for burnt pasta and bad jokes, he called. "Always," she answered. and for the first time in decades, the word felt like truth without interrogation. The river flowed on below, carrying old patterns downstream, making space for whatever came next. Imperfect, unpredictable, and finally, survivably close.